The one, the greatest shortcut of all time.
It's gotta get me like that. Yeah? Good? Awesome. Okay, for our first lightning talk, I just want to go over briefly Facebook's upstream approach to GlusterFS. This is something that we may have mentioned in one-on-one conversations or with our collaborations with Red Hat, but wanted to lay it out just for the broader community. So, Facebook started running GlusterFS in earnest in 2012. We started looking at it the year before. We started out in production at 3.3, and then we moved to 3.4. And then after quite a bit of work, we got ourselves onto 3.6 by moving our patches there. And now we're looking at 3.8. I know these are low numbers, but this is where we're coming from. In 2015, we came to the first Gluster Dev Summit, and we have been here each year since then. And as you may know, we've contributed several major pieces in the past 5 years: Halo, AFR improvements. This is a lot of like patches around split brains and healing, IO stats changes, which we talked about, and GF proxy. And then there's some things that we presented at this conference as well. So as of last year, we got permission to develop in the open. So we call that the public branch. That's release 3.8 FB on GitHub. Since we did that last year, we just finished porting our patches, more or less. So there's about 200, a little less, that we just got over to 3.8, and we did kind of a push. It took about 6 months, and this was a process of making sure that they were merging cleanly. The tests at the time were passing, and using the Garrett system to do code reviews. One thing that Nigel alluded to before is we've done some work on testing. So this year, we started running all the upstream tests, or at least trying to. So this is during review, this is continuously, and in order to do this, we had to develop a way of testing in parallel. So as previously mentioned, if the test suite takes 5 to 6 hours, we were able to run the tests on multiple machines and get that down to around 15 minutes. Now, we are Facebook, and we do have a few machines at our disposal. But one thing we noticed is you can even run tests in parallel on just one machine. There are many cores available. And so adopting a system like this would be really beneficial for the community. I do plan on, or my team plans on, trying to see if we can open source our work, but I don't know if we can. So that would be helpful. But either way, it's a relatively basic concept of just have some system that is able to run arbitrary tests that has a copy of the built code, and run those tests kind of like a map reduce, bring them back, get the answer. So the reason why I mentioned this is we were previously only running what we call the FB smoke tests, which was a subset of tests, and so we actually had no visibility into whether or not the other tests were passing, specifically things that we're not running. Now we're running up to 250 tests. I know there's a few more, and we're working on some memory leak detection stuff and getting some of those tests passing that aren't. So now that we have moved most of our code to 3.8, that's not the end goal. We do want to be on master. We want to be developing with the community, not after or aside from the community. So our current target is to get all these patches we mentioned into master before 4.0 is cut. So this is sometime early next year. This takes a considerable amount of more work, and we do need your help, because when we do this, there's typically some dialogue about, usually it's something like we took a particular direction that makes sense for us, that may or may not make sense for the whole community, or maybe we just need a dialogue on why we did it that way, and get those patches approved and in master. So that's a collaborative effort that we need help on. Our goal at Facebook is to be targeting 4.1 as a release space for active development inside of Facebook. So meaning what we're currently doing is trying to get 3.8 into our production fleet. This is coming from 3.6. We need to get all of our patch sets to 4.0, and we hope that by the time 4.1 is cut, we can actually be on, more or less on master, the most recent release. That's what we want to do, but it's going to take quite a bit of work. And then finally, just a bit about how we collaborate with Upstream. We sometimes participate on the GlusterFS develop list. We want to participate more. We would like to participate in code reviews on critical patches and also get feedback on ours. And then we do have regular communication with some folks at Red Hat specifically, and we do this up to a weekly cadence. This is just to make sure that we're in lockstep with the community. And then finally, just a bit of what we're focusing on for Gluster at Facebook. Number one is scalability and stability. If you look at our patch list, those 100, 200 patches, a lot of those are smaller, perhaps complicated changes that are fixing bugs to make it stable at scale. Or they're hitting some things that might look like edge cases, but when you're running it at 10, 100, maybe even more machines, we start to see very regularly. Particular projects we're super excited about are Gluster D2, Rio, and then also us incorporating the erasure coding implementation, which I know is run on a lot of customers already. Another thing is we run GNFSD, the legacy NFS server. We this year have offered up to be maintenance for that code base because we believe that it's at least good for us, and we've seen that it can be quite stable when deployed in the wild. And then from Facebook, you heard about QoS or throttling, and we also have Enfuser, which you'll hear about next. Those are two major contributions that we're planning on making this year, and hopefully there'll be more next year. And that's it.
Questions? We do have time for questions.
Okay, questions?
As I trip over things.
Who's asking? So you guys have been excellent community members for the last several years, but I have yet to see you at a community meeting.
Shots fired.
Can we get that to happen?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Now that Jeff's with us, we've made it a point to make sure that he can contribute as much as he was previously, at least to the community. So, yeah. Which is what? He's like, damn it.
Other questions? All right.
But that would reveal I don't know when it was.
You mentioned memory test, memory leak test, and other tests. Is that something you're contributing back up, or can you in the future?
Well, I believe any patches that we make to fix the tests will be going upstream.
But not the tests.
The tests themselves, I don't think, are we writing new tests? No, we're not writing new tests.
You're not right.
We're trying to get them to pass. So this is like Valgrind and ASAN. So when we run both of those, many more tests fail. So we kind of are trying to inch our way up, like get the tests and then get ASAN Valgrind, and it's sort of an iterative.
You mentioned that we can run multiple tests on the same node at the same time. So we already know of a trick where GlusterD can use a different IP and it can mind. As in, that's the limitation that each GlusterD needs its own 24,007 port. Are there any other tricks to do more parallelized test there?
You know, I'm actually, a guy on our team named Karthik is working on this, and okay. I'm not sure the answer to your question. So hopefully we'll have more to share at some point.
Nice, thank you. Yeah.
So you mentioned that there are few projects which you are more focused on, and I see GlusterD 2 is one of them. So can we expect some contribution on the active GlusterD 2 development from you guys?
You know, I'm not sure. It's one of the issues is nobody knows Go on our team. So there's that. I think we'd like to. The answer is not no. It's just we haven't so far. Yep.
So I just wanted to clarify a little bit on the failing tests. So a lot of the times we have tests that succeed upstream and fail downstream simply because we configure our systems very differently. So there are some tests that are dependent on specific things that we don't do or that are broken by things that we do. So part of the exercise that we're going through is identifying which ones should we expect to fail and which ones might be worth further investigation as something that is actually a real issue.
Yeah, like a classic example of that, which is something that we've already taken care of, is just we're an IPv6 only environment, so tests that are IPv4 would fail. Similarly, when we submit up, if we have IPv6 only tests, they'll fail in the upstream environment. So that's the kind of thing that can happen too. All right, good?
Yes, thank you so much.